Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. This is called By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It's very nice to speak to you. Please sign up to my channel. It would be really nice for you to sign up and send me a message. I will like all your messages. So we're going to speak about the because today is what's the date? Today is it's the 14th of December, right? Which is sort of it's a halfway mark for the a building that burnt down in this country on the 14th of June 2017, right, in West London, North Kensington, right, the building called Grenfell Tower, right, where 72 of our fellow citizens lost their lives, right. Now, there's a lot of different circumstances around this because the people from the Grenfell Tower itself was often writing, blogs, and they was writing to whoever they could, right, about the conditions within this building. Now you see, the problem is that when you sell off, right, your council buildings and these type of things, right, to private companies, right, or you allow private companies to get involved in the housing sector of housing, people who are, council tenants or, or in council properties. Right, you open yourself up to things like what happened in Grenfell Tower, because private companies have one thing in mind, and that is cost savings, right? So there's been a lot of talk, in the inquiry that there was a saving of to this particular cladding that went up on these buildings, right? Went up on these buildings to save £5,000 on each building, right? So you see, the problem what you're facing is that if the council are putting up buildings, there's no one who's worrying about the finance and saying, well, if you can cut some corners and make it a bit cheaper, right, then something, there's a nice little bonus in it for you. Right? So you see, because obviously these guys, when they pay to put that particular cladding on the building, they, in their mind, it's never going to catch a fire, is it? That's never going to happen. Those type of things don't happen, do they? Right? But then when you put, solid petrol on the side of a building, right, these things can happen, and often they do. Right? So, so we've got the 72 people dead in this building, right? And there's never going to be any criminal charges for anybody, because you see, corporate, even if they do charge someone with corporate manslaughter, I don't believe it carries a prison sentence, right? But they should go right along the line, right, and they should be jailing plenty of people for this, because you see, do you remember when it first happened? Yeah, did you see how quickly they rounded up all the people that for fraud? Right, people who said, well, I was living in the building, and they wasn't, but they got themselves hotel rooms, and they might have got a few payments out of the local council and all them type of things, right? So I'm quite sure that none of these people who done that, right, was anybody that was like really well to do. I'm quite sure they probably needed the money, right? But you see how quick they rounded them up and jailed the lot of them. Right, but 72 people dead, right, and not even there's not even been a corporate manslaughter charge yet, right, and that it shouldn't even be a corporate manslaughter charge. This should really be, right, a criminal charge of death by criminal negligence. Right, which I'm sure should carry a prison sentence, because all these guys need to be rounded up and sent to jail. Because you see, this is what happens, right, when the working classes and the poor, right, fight against each other, right, we get ourselves, governments that do not look out for our interests. Because if these guys was looking out for our interests, yeah, none of these buildings would belong to private companies. They would all belong to the councils, and the councils will be doing all the maintenance and making sure that all the buildings are up to scratch. But no, you see, even look, in my lifetime, right, we've never had a Labour Party, because the only Labour Party I've ever known was obviously Tony Blair's Labour Party, and that wasn't a Labour Party. That was like a Tory. That was like some type of a Tory light, right? So we did nearly get a Labour Party with Jeremy Corbyn, come very close, right? But and I'm quite sure, I'm positive, in fact, right, that if Jeremy Corbyn was in charge, right, the people of Grenfell, right, would have had a completely different result to they're having now, right? Because these poor people, right, and people in buildings that have got cladding all over them, right, are having to bear the cost themselves. And you think, well, hold on, they had nothing to do with putting these buildings up. They had nothing to do at all with putting these buildings up. Nothing at all. Right, and the people who should bear the cost, right, is the government should really bear the cost. Obviously, that's us now. Again, right, so that comes down on us, right, because of their mismanagement, right, because of them, right. You say, you know what? Yeah, we need to sell it all off to the private sector. Everything, council housing, everything. Sell it off to the private sector. Let the private sector house council tenants. It's always going to go wrong. Always, it's always going to go wrong. Right, never ever does it go right, because you see, the private sector have always got one motive in mind, and that is to make as much cash as they can, right? Suitcases full, trunks full, right? Whatever it takes, right? That's what they want to do. So you see, when you sell off your buildings and you sell off all your all everything within your country, right, and then you wonder why everything is crashing all over the place, right? You've got all the energy companies crashing all over the place. People handing back the keys to OAP homes, handing the keys back, because they can't make a profit. They can't make any profit anymore, because a lot of these people, yeah, they was making massive profits, right? And you see, when their profits, when it starts to really cut in on them, right, they just like, you can take that back. Right, train lines being handed back, right, all these things being handed back, right, because all of these things get mismanaged by the private sector, because the private sector only think about making money for their shareholders, and that is it, right. So you see, right, when we, right, as working class, right, and poor people, right, when we fight against each other, right, we leave them, right, to come right down the middle, right, and do what they want to do, treat us in the way that they want to treat us, right? Because we should be saying to them, no. We're not voting for people, yeah, who are going to sell off all of our stuff. In fact, we want all of our stuff back. So we're only going to vote for people who are going to get all of our stuff back for us. We want all that, we want our councils to take back all the council housing, right, from all these private companies. You don't allow them to come and make money, right, off of, right, because these people are making a lot of money, right, out of people's miseries. Right, and all of that money should be going into the council pot, not into the hands of private companies. This shouldn't be happening, because when this happens, right, we get things like Grenfell Tower, right, we get people with cladding on buildings, right, and then next thing they know, right, they're stuck in those buildings having to pay for a fire marshal, right, and these type of things for 24 hours a day, right? And these companies are just like, yeah, of course, because they can supply the fire marshals, because they know it's massive money, right, for all these tenants, right? A lot of these tenants have gone bankrupt, right, because they're sitting in flats right now that are not worth anything. They will become worth something again in the future, but right now they're not worth anything. So a lot of these people, they're stuck. If they wanted to move on, if they wanted to sell up and then move on, they can't do that, and they haven't been able to do that for years now. But all of this, right, is a direct result of government actions. That's what this is, right? So these people should really, right, be sorted out by the government. The government should have taken all of this in hand. Look how much years ago it is now. Because this is how they treat the working classes. They just step all over us. Right, 72 of our fellow citizens are dead, right, because of their mismanagement. Right, you can feel, all these companies, right, that have that have put up all this cladding on on places like Grenfell, right. You can't blame them, because these people just want to make these people just want to make a quick buck. That's all they want to make. They just want to make a quick buck. So they're not interested. They're not really interested in all your safety and all that. That's what the council's interested in. But the councils, right, and the governments, right, do not want to do these things. They don't want to employ people, right. They don't want to house. They don't want to house people, right. They look at it. They look at it as if to say, you know what? It's that all of that, right, is for the underclasses. But look, right, in North Kensington, one of you go around the corner, there's some of the richest parts of this country around that borough there. Do you know what I mean? Right. And they've I think they're back with a Tory. I can't remember if they're back with a Tory now. I know the Tories was in power at the time, and and they still voted them back in again after Grenfell. Do you know what I mean? After the councillors and all these people had to go. These guys just like saw what happened then. They just retired out of it. Done. Do you know what I mean? Left the people of Grenfell Tower to just, to just fend for themselves. You look at, the robot Theresa May. She couldn't even go down there and face the people. Do you know what I mean? This is the type of government these people was running. So the whole thing is very, very, very sad. But this is our fault, because we allow them to get inside there. Right, the Conservatives, right, and the Labour light, right, is no good to the people of this country. Right? It's no good to the people of this country. The people of this country need government that's going to, actually look out for them, to make sure that something like Grenfell Tower could never happen. Right, to make sure that people are not paying like 10 or 12,000 pounds a year for a season ticket for a fucking train. Do you know what I'm saying? All these type of things, right? This is what we need. This is what we need good government for, right? And we've never ever had good government, because if we had good government, right, these type of things wouldn't be happening, right? We wouldn't have like the highest like NHS waiting list times. Right, the social care wouldn't be in complete chaos and in pieces. If we had good government, right? So we have never had good government. The closest we come to a Labour government was probably Gordon Brown. That was that was the closest. Do you know what I mean? But as I said before, right? If this had happened under Corbyn, the whole of Grenfell Tower would have been handled in a complete different way. It would have been handled in a compassionate way, because the Tories don't care. What do the Tories care about them people in Grenfell Tower? They don't care about them people, because the Tories look at them people and think, well, you know what? None of them vote Tory anyway. But some of them probably do, because they're stupid. But some of them probably do. Some of these people probably do, living in somewhere like Grenfell Tower, and they're probably voting for the Tories. Do you know what I mean? But the Tories just look at them. They don't care. Even people who are living in these buildings with all this cladding all over it, they don't care. It's not these people's fault. This cladding's on these buildings. It's not their fault. They shouldn't have to bear the cost of this. Right. The government should have stepped in a long time ago, tore this cladding off of these buildings. Do you know what I mean? That's it. They could have, with the amount of cladding that we've got, they could have said, you know what, we're going to have a new team of government workers who are going around these buildings taking cladding off. We're going to train up some youngsters to go and take this cladding off. Right. While they're there, we could teach them to put cladding on. But no, see, there's no forward thinking in how these people work. There's no fucking forward thinking at all. Do you know what I mean? This is why 72 of our fellow citizens can be murdered by the state, because that is what's really happened. Right? The whole of the councillors, all of them, they're all guilty, and they should all feel guilty, and they should all of them should be held accountable for what they've done. All of them. Right, because these are the people who have sold off all of these things, and then even when they've sold them off, right, they're not keeping an eye to make sure that things are done properly. Because you know what, the council must have signed off that cladding at some stage, where the council should have said to them, hold on a minute, this cladding is flammable, you can't put that on the building. Right, but no, they've just allowed these companies to just get away with all this nonsense. Do you know what I mean? Where these things should have really been checked to make sure, right, that everything, right, is, everything is covered, just to make sure, right? Because these people, they're very, very big on health and safety, right? But when it comes down to working class and poor tenants, nah, they can live in fucking slums, just like back in the day. Do you know what I mean? That is what you've got to remember. That's what these people are. Do you know what I mean? They're slumlords. Even look now, right? Retrospectively, they should have been fitting fire escapes on all of these types of buildings. Fit them on the outside. Right? Fit them on the outside. Why can't you do that? Why can't you do that? Again, right? Train up the youth to fit, so they can go around to all the buildings in England, right, and fit them up with with fire escapes, metal outside the building, so everybody can escape. If they live in 24, because remember Grenfell Tower, 24 stories, right? The fire brigade don't have ladders that long. Okay, so once they get past probably the 10th or the 12th floor, right, that's it. There's no ladders reaching up there. So all of those type of buildings just retrospectively fit them, right, with fire escapes. Why not? Train up the youth to do it. It's a bit of forward thinking, but they don't care about the working class and the poor people in this country. They don't care about us. Anyway, guys, this is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys, and let's all pray for the people of Grenfell Tower. Thank you.